This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Russo Radio. You have questions or comments? 64686 is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. They're already pouring in. And Russo is kind enough to join us from the Fallna Studios at the X. Wild with an early start tonight, which is why we're out about 6:15. Russo, let me ask you a timely question that I doubt you've been asked regarding your favorite professional hockey team.
Panthers?
What's that?
Florida Panthers.
Wow. Garen ain't going to like that. You're in enough trouble with him, man. Come on. Let's take it easy. No, how do you think the Wild would do if the NHL had the transfer portal? How would we do? You think we'd be okay or not?
Probably not.
Yeah, you're probably right, unfortunately. And in fact, the question is how fast would Kaprizov elect to join the transfer portal? That's the scary part, right?
No comment on all this. Yeah. I don't even want to think about that.
Have Russo and Garen kissed and made up lately? I think people are as fascinated by this relationship as they are the hockey team these days. Everybody wants to know because there's always been some agitation. I would say you're not doing your job if there isn't some agitation, quite frankly, but that doesn't mean it's open warfare. It doesn't mean you guys are going to end up in the squared circle boxing soon, right?
Yeah, I think we addressed this last week. I mean, that's the job. Sometimes sometimes they love you, sometimes they don't. And, you got to take the good with the bad in this business. It's the same thing. Like, you turn the puck over in overtime for the game-winning goal. I'm going to write about it. But then when you score it, I'm going to write about that too. That's just the way it is. Right now, the team's in a skid and put themselves in a real precarious position. But if they play well here the next couple of weeks and go into the playoffs on a high, you'll write that too. But in terms of Bill and I mean, I'm sure there's some, I'm sure he doesn't love exactly the stuff that I've been writing or saying lately, but we still have a professional relationship. Him and I sat down, I think I told you last week, to talk about some of the stuff I've been writing when we were in Florida for the GM's meetings, which was actually probably the value of me being there. So we can, and that's the only thing, that when you cover a team, I have to be, just like players have to be accountable for their stuff. Like everything I write and say, I've got to be accountable for, and I got to show up the next day and stand up for what I write and let him to, get out what he wants to get out and all that type of stuff. So everything's fine and healthy, and I'll continue doing my job, and he'll continue worrying about the stuff that he needs to worry about, which is not what I write.
Can you answer this TV question? There's been a lot of TV questions today because the Twins season opened and they just added, they finally just got overnight got deals with DirecTV and Comcast, etc. Is the Wild game on ESPN going to be blacked out? I don't think they blacked that out, do they?
No, it shouldn't be. Right. Tonight's ESPN Plus, Hulu. Maybe Kevin knows more than me, but it's not going to be blacked out locally if you have the subscription to get that stuff. There's no FanDuel.
Yeah. If it's a FanDuel versus ESPN, then it would be, but there's not. This is the only option, which doesn't matter because it's on the radio and that's what you'll listen to anyway.
But I don't think it's on regular ESPN, right? I think it's on ESPN Plus, Hulu, and that stuff. So you still need to have a subscription or go to a sports bar or, find a fun app that...
Mute TV.
I don't want to say it, but there's ways.
Here's a question moving far ahead, by the way, but maybe that's okay every once in a while. Which forward sits for the playoffs when Eriksson, Kaprizov, and Foligno are all back, assuming everyone else healthy?
Yeah, I would think that Devin Shore comes out. I would think Justin Brazeau comes out. Let's see, is that there's Foligno's coming in for Gauntz tonight, so then that would leave two. So I would think Shore and Brazeau would come out, or Hinostroza, but most likely I would think Brazeau if Trenyon's in the lineup. I would think that Vinny would add some speed. I'm not saying that nobody, that if you start out of the lineup, it doesn't mean that you're going to be in there the whole way. There's obviously going to be lineup changes, injuries, things like that. But if I had to guess right now, I would think that Brazo comes out, and I would think that Devin Shore comes out.
Here's another question directed at you. What's the Wild record when you are the primary reporter covering the game this year versus Joe Smith? Seems like the last couple months, Russo has been a jinx to the team's success, while Joe has been a lucky charm.
Well, Joe was on paternity leave until December 25th, which is about the time that the Wild season took a turn for the worse.
Good point. You covered it all before that.
If we believe the jinxes are real, I covered the team when they were the best team in the league.
It's a great point. It just feel like there's people trying that want to get you go. They think they've got material.
Zuccarello brought this up to me the other day too. He just thought that I wasn't being focused enough on the team, that I was watching too many games on TV, going to GM's meetings, Four Nations.
I see.
Things like this. So it's not just the fans apparently witnessing this; it's the players as well.
So I think, speaking of Zuccarello, wasn't it his comment the other day off the last loss that basically said, "Hey guys, among the things we got to worry about actually getting there," which was an interesting acknowledgement from a player. Is that fear real?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. Vegas and the problem is momentum right now. Like every single night to make the playoffs, Vancouver, St. Louis, and Calgary have to win. And most nights they are doing it. And, every other night it feels like Calgary or Vancouver are leapfrogging each other in the standings. Now you got St. Louis that's won 7 in a row and are right on the Wild's heels, being 2 points back. So again, the Wild, are 5 points up on Calgary, but Calgary's got 2 games in hand. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Like the Wild have to start getting points, and imagine what would have happened if they didn't win those last 3 games of that homestand. So the last 2 games were tough. I think it was a real hard schedule for them to play, but you'd love them to eke out a point or 2 in those games against Vegas and Dallas. It didn't happen, and now it's put them in a position where tonight they're going up against Alex Ovechkin and the best team in the NHL, and the Washington Capitals, and you got to figure out a way to win. And this homestand obviously got off to a bad start the other night. You got New Jersey coming into town on Saturday. That's a game where, again, like we talk about scheduled losses, that should be a scheduled win for Minnesota. They play a 7 p.m. game on Friday in Winnipeg, and then a 5 p.m. game here, the New Jersey Devils. You got to win that game. And there's just no more excuses anymore, even with these guys out of the lineup. We all know that they're shorthanded right now and overmatched. Maybe they get a jolt tonight from Marcus Foligno, Brett's guy, coming back into the lineup. And, he'll add that energy and physicality that I do think has lacked the last couple games. And but these final 10 games are big. It's not just big to make the playoffs. Like they've got to get their game into a fixture right now where they're playing their best hockey going in, where you just know, even with Kaprizov and Eriksson back in the lineup, if they get there, when you go up against whether it's Winnipeg, Vegas, Dallas in the first round, you're going to be you're going to be the underdog as it is. So these last 10 games are not only important for positioning and making the playoffs, but going in and getting your game back to being the way it was earlier this season.
What did we decide? Is Kaprizov, has he missed 35 games, 36 games? You know the number?
Yeah, well, they're 18, 15, and 1 in the last whatever games that is without him. Or
in the games he's missed.
Yeah, in the games he's missed since
December 23rd.
December 23rd. Yeah. Now 3 of those games he did play, and they were 1 and 2 in that. So and then he missed 1 game after that hit. I think it was, I forget who got him in Edmonton. It was a Julie, I think, in Edmonton, and they missed the game in Calgary. So he's missed, a bunch of games here that obviously they haven't played well in.
My point is that's a lot of games, and Eriksson Ek you remind us, has missed 30 in 5 different stints. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tell you, that's I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying anybody's soft, but that's more than a minute and a half. That's a lot of games between the two of them.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we're all talking like how much of a boost it'll be to get them back in the lineup, and it obviously will, because not just having their presence there, but then it puts people in better positions. It takes a lot of pressure off guys like Rossi and Boldy, who are being checked hard right now. But we don't know what they're going to feel like, be like, all that stuff. I mean, the league right now is going a million miles an hour, and these teams are primed for playoffs, and they're coming back like it's training camp. So to expect them to just be their normal selves right when they get into the lineup, I think is probably a little bit, probably, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put anything past guys like Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek, but I think it's probably unreasonable to just think that they're going to be on top of their games right away.
And did you have the note? I think it was in the same piece. Foligno has been out the last 5. Yep. He's supposed to be back tonight against the Capitals. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think it's going to help because I just think that since he's been out of the lineup, even the games they won, I just think the physicality has lacked. The energy has lacked. They have to work so hard, but because of that, I think sometimes they don't want to exude that extra couple steps that it means to finish checks. And I think their last couple games, they just haven't checked well enough. And again, if you're going to get primed for the playoffs, you better get physical, and no better player on the Wild to do that than him.
Ovechkin, he can't get 6 goals tonight, can he?
I don't put anything past him. I don't know if he, what he's been doing in the last 24 hours. He did go load up on sushi last night, according to social media, with Kaprizov at Billy Sushi in Minneapolis. And obviously he's starting to, score again. He's only 6 away from breaking the record. The traveling circus is here. Obviously, that's why the game was pulled off FanDuel and put on ESPN tonight. Ray Ferraro and Bob Wischusen and Emily Kaplan are in town for this game. And I know that he'd love to do it at home, but I think he does it this year. I think he wants to also get it over with and not have this drag into next year where it's the big talker at the beginning of the season and throughout training camp. So, he has played unbelievable hockey this year. He's 36 goals in 55 games, came back from a broken leg. As a couple players on the Rangers said, I think it was Vincent Trocheck kept on asking him what he put in that leg to get himself healthy. And the Capitals as a whole are really good. I mean, their leading scorer right now is Dylan Strome. He's been unbelievable this season. Protas, who's like an eclipse out there, he's like 6'6" and probably 240. The guy's massive. He's got close to 30 goals. They got at the end of the season, they're going to have 7 goals. 7 guys score 20 goals. So they have been really, really good. Chychrun's been great. Duhaime's added a lot to their lineup as well. So they're for real. And they got obviously great goaltending from both Lindgren and Thompson.
Oh, when we're talking about historically speaking, the great goal scorers, where does Ovechkin fit in? And I mean, what sets him? I mean, is there something in the skill set? They're obviously all very skilled by definition, but is there something specific or different in the skill set in his case?
Well, I mean, you look at the majority of his goals that he scored, and it's all from the same spot. His office is that right circle. Yeah. One-timers, especially on the power play, everybody knows it's coming, yet he still scores from there. If you watch him, if you actually isolate your eyes on him during shifts, he doesn't exude a lot of effort or movement or things like that. He just stands around and waits, and yet he's effective and scores. And he is by far the best goal scorer that I've ever covered in this league, and I think the best goal scorer of all time. And obviously he's going to go down that way at the end of his career. But what he has done, and if you think about it too, that he's played in 3 shortened seasons, right? 2 because of the pandemic, and 1 because of a full season that he lost because of the lockout. I mean, he'd have 1,000 goals probably by now if those seasons didn't end prematurely, or certainly be on the way there. So this is just a matter of time before he was going to break it and will break it. And he is just the definition of, a goal scoring specimen. And the other thing about him is he's just rock solid. I mean, he's been for his entire career one of the best power forwards in the game. I mean, earlier in his career, he would just absolutely crush you. Physically, and if you didn't have your head up on the ice, he'd roll you over like a freight train. And he's just been the definition of consistency throughout his career. He's going to get another 40-goal season this year and beyond, probably.
So, is there any? I thought at some point, maybe I imagined this or hallucinated it. I thought a while ago there was some, as he was approaching the Gretzky goal number. Well, he still is, but earlier in this process. And when it became clear, he was going to get there this season, that there were some of the the hockey stories were almost, I don't say if offend is the right word, but that there was, because of the Gretzky name and the significance of it, that there was some problem here, which I guess I don't understand what there would be, because first of all, it's not like people are going to forget Gretzky, and he's got that, the points number, right, is untouchable, I would think, relatively speaking. It's not like he's going to be wiped out of the record book. But what are the old timers? Are they okay with this
I think so. I think the biggest criticism of right now is his nationality, I mean, there's no doubt if you follow him on social media and throughout his career, he is a Putin guy, and we're in a time and age where that is not something that is very accepted. And so I think that's the big thing here, and the league is actually worried about it. Like, just obviously when Trump visited, met with Putin a couple weeks ago and came out and they wanted to have KHL, NHL games, and it would put the NHL. I was at the GM's meetings in a time where they were scrambling to come up with some sort of statement. There was even talk down there of, what are we going to do if all of a sudden he's about to break the record and Putin just essentially shows up and wants to show up at a game, and how you handle stuff like this. And so I think that's more the part of it. I don't think it's as much Gretzky as it is, where Ovi's from and whom he supports. And if you look again last year, I don't think anybody thought that he would be this close to breaking the record this season. He obviously got off to a really tough start last year at the first half, went to the bye week, and came back and suddenly was a goal-scoring machine again for some magical reason. And this year, I remember sitting down in Prague with Farivari and Rasmus Dahlin, Sandin, that both play for the Capitals together. And I remember the quote to this day. I asked both of them when they think that he's going to score, break Gretzky's record, and they both came up with dates next season. Like, even his own teammates never thought that at this point he would be at 36 goals in 55 games and have a chance to break it, just because it looked last year like he was slowing down. And obviously, even though it's well known that his game day diet is like Subway and the Fire Cheetos and like Mountain Dew or whatever, he's still figured out a way to score goals, even though he's not probably the same physical fit specimen that he used to be.
Somebody said, whatever happened, let me see if I can find the exact, ask Russo whatever happened to 50 goals in 50 games. That was always the benchmark back in the day for many.
50 and 50. I mean, only one person in NHL history has done that, right? And so, I mean, it's a different world now, a different league. I mean, obviously, Bossy and Gretzky, those guys were machines, but it's not like that anymore. And, I've covered some unbelievable goal scorers in my career. Ovi's right up there. I think if Pavel Bure had a full career where he didn't have the torn ACLs and all the multiple knee injuries that he had at the end of the career, he'd be up there as well. He's still a Hall of Famer. But I covered, in a clutch and grab era, I covered Bure when he scored 58 and 59 goals back-to-back years. And we hadn't seen anything like that at that era, because it was Jacques Lemaire, Roger Nielsen type clutch and grab hockey, and it's changed since then. The game has definitely opened up. It's made it easier again for goal scorers, because you can't hook and hold as much as you used to be able to. But 50 and 50, that stuff hasn't happened, at least in my lifetime of covering hockey.
No, I didn't think that's fairly unusual. Somebody wrote Gretzky had 50 goals in 39 games, and on the 39th game he scored 5.
Yeah, I remember that one, and then obviously Bossy was it was in my Bossy story that I wrote for the NHL '99. I have some really good anecdotes in there from those years of just some of his unbelievable performances when he played for the Islanders. That was my hero growing up.
That was the guy?
Yep. That was my guy. And so when we did that NHL '99 project at the Athletic, I did guys like Billy Smith and Mike Modano. And I can't remember who else I did. Denny Potvin, Marc-Andre Fleury. But the one that I just had a blast doing was Mike Bossy, because I got to talk to his daughter about what type of dad he was growing up, and all that type of stuff, like all this personal stuff that I never knew. And it was definitely one of my favorite stories that I've ever written at the Athletic. That was a couple of years ago. If you look that up, just Google Mike Bossy NHL '99.
Trump's not going to invite Putin over for the Gretzky record, is he? There's no possibility that's going to happen.
I'm just saying that the league is actually worried about. I don't think it would happen, but the league would have. They do have concerns on how this would be handled if something like this happened. And back in the day, Putin used to just come over. Like, I remember when I covered Florida back in the early 2000s, late 90s, when Bure and Putin were like buddies. Putin would like literally stay at his condo on Miami Beach. Like, it was just crazy, some of the stuff. Some of the stories of back when I covered Pav.
Where are we, by the way? Give us an update on our power play. and on our penalty kill? Because I thought the penalty kill for a while at least was vastly improved. Yeah. Is it still, and where are we on the power play?
No, I mean, for the most part, it has been. Obviously, the goal the other night that turned the game upside down, that turned a 2-1 game into a 3-1 game, the Wild took their only penalty of the game and put the second best power play in the NHL and first on the road in Vegas right onto the ice, and they scored in 13 seconds. It was the second of Jack Eichel's 3 goals. So their power play has not been nearly as good lately. Their penalty kill has been much, much better, but yet the other night when they needed a big kill, they didn't get it. And obviously tonight, we know what's going to happen if they take penalties. We know who they're going to try to set up in that right circle. And guys like Faber and Spurgeon are going to have to, and Bogosian, if he's out there on the PK, are going to have to be ready to block that shot.
All right, and so
or better yet, they've got to do a good job of keeping that puck out of Ovi's hands.
Yeah.
You know?
So are you trying to project a time frame for Eriksson Ek and for Kirill, or is it just foolhardy to even attempt
it really
to do that?
is, but I mean, I if I had to guess, I think that we see them on the homestand coming up after the New York trip. I mean, what was concerning today, and look, it's not like this is a shock. We've been saying that if they're going to come back, it's going to be with 2 or 3 games left in the season as it is, because just by doing the math, it's like, as I joked with John Hines this morning during the press scrum, he kept on calling it week to week. And I'm like, well, we're running out of weeks. There's 10 games left in the season, and he just told us that they're not playing on this homestand, and they're not going to play on the entire New York road trip, which is 3 games. They're going on the trip, but there's no practices on that trip, so they're going to be going on the ice alone. Obviously, it makes sense for Kirill to come on that trip because he had surgery in New York, and he can go see a surgeon. And that maybe will be a good sign if he sees that surgeon and he gives him the green light medically to start, his actual return to play. So if I had to guess, I think it comes on that homestand coming up after. But again, would that be a normal protocol if they rush him back that quickly? We'll see. They looked good on the ice today. I will say there were times, and maybe I'm misreading it, but there were times that Kirill was after drills, sort of, I don't want to say grimacing, but definitely leaning on where his surgery was and his injury. But then every time I'm like, oh boy, did he just, does he have to pull himself off the ice here? Or then he just went back to Andy Ness and got back into a regular, ready for the next drill. So, he's coming back. You're obviously going to have soreness. A lot of this right now, and the reason why they can't give us a great timetable is they are going to have to see how both these players respond when they leave the ice after all the regimens that they're going through every time. So, but I do think that we'll see them on the next homestand. And then they got, after that homestand, they only got 3 games, 2 massive games. Wow. What it's looking like in both Calgary and Vancouver. The way it's looking right now, those games are going to be monster for all 3 teams. And then obviously the season finale against Anaheim.
One last question from the gallery. The Juracek trade appears to be more and more puzzling every day. Does Russo think that first-round pick, et cetera, would be better used for a center or future currency on an already loaded D? We've talked about that before.
Yeah. I mean, look, as Bill Guerin said at the time of the trade, it was an investment for the future. Am I concerned? Yes. Just because he had not been, they didn't obviously play him here. He wasn't playing great in Iowa. Then just, the story of the season, you can't even make it up. He's up here, doesn't play for 7 or 8 games the entire time he's up here. They send him down to Iowa and he goes and lacerates his spleen in the first game. So now he's done for the rest of the season. So, you just can't even make it up. And so, yeah, it was a huge amount of assets that they gave up. I'm doing this big story on offer sheets in the NHL right now. And if you think of the compensation that they gave up for a 6th overall pick here, they gave up a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and a prospect. I mean, that, in an offer sheet, that would be your compensation offered somebody like $9 or $10 million. So, they better hope that it works out. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to make the team next year and be in the top 6 for that to happen. Obviously, they're going to they're going to have to just commit to Zach Bogosian being their 7th D, or they're going to have to move a defenseman this offseason.
We appreciate the time. I'm glad Fallness, I hope he didn't charge any rent this afternoon, and enjoy the festivities tonight.
Yep, definitely. Thanks. And Fallness, just always a pleasure and professional being in here with him.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Yeah, Russo. Oh, that's your Russo. That's Fallness. Yeah, there's a big difference between. Has he got any candles going tonight?
Not in my thing. Yeah. In yours? We're in 2 different studios, believe it or not.
No candles.
I do have some candles going.
Which is the way that I demand it when I come in here.
Not the ones I got from Dan. I just got my own. No big deal.
It's my fault. I brought up the candles. I should have known once you bring up the candles, we're going to go back down to the that old story about how I hoarded all the candles from him. We got one out of the deal. I only got 6. Something like that. Thanks, Russo.
Yep, see ya.
Russo Radio, who joins us. Usually we go late in the week, and today, I think, is late in the week. Is it late early, or is it early late for your Minnesota Twins? We'll give you an update on the season opener for your favorite baseball team, just in case whatever cable package or streaming system you decided to go with is not working for you. We'll give you a couple of early details. We've got some LeBron James controversies, or one controversy, definitely worthy of time. And what was the other item I said I wanted to get into the rest of this program? There was the LeBron stuff, and there was something else about that Jimmy Johnson news conference. It'll come to me in a minute.
Wolves fans, we just don't talk ball, we live it. And now we're giving you a full court lob with $15 tickets to select March games. Don't just hear us break it down. You can be there, feel the energy, lose your voice, and howl with us. Use code KFAN at Timberwolves.com/March to get your $15 tickets. Code KFAN at Timberwolves.com/March.
Looks like I just missed the St. Louis Cardinals dong, a 2-run dong, and we are trailing in the bottom of the second inning of a game that started late because of rain in St. Louis. Pablo and the Twins are down 3-0 with the Cardinals still batting in the bottom half of the second. And I, was deep in our conversation with Russo, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we squandered a pretty good scoring opportunity off of Sonny Gray in the top half of the second inning. I believe we had the bases loaded with 1 out, at which point Miranda struck out looking and Bader fouled out to first. So we squandered a prime scoring opportunity, give up a 2-run home run, and find ourselves down very early to the Cardinals. So far picking up right where we left off last season, unfortunately. Yeah, it's finally, mercifully, the start for the Minnesota Twins of the 2025 Major League Baseball season. We'll have hockey tonight on the Fan. That was a lot of the conversation with Russo. The Caps, the opponent, and it's an early start tonight, so we'll be out between 6:10 and 6:15 this very evening. So about 10 or 15 minutes early, pregame show, and then the game itself. Big dance stuff tonight. We talked extensively about that with Rick Bozich. Sweet 16 begins tonight, and that action can be heard after the hockey game tonight. We'll pick it up in progress on Westwood One, and I think on the Plus at some point, but early on the Plus. The problem is we got too much stuff on the Plus. Before that, I think it's 7 o'clock tap, go for women basketball team. They're at home against Gonzaga. And then your Golden Gopher, well, it's not your Golden Gopher men's hockey team. They are in action tonight on News Talk 1130, I think is what we call it in the business, isn't it? News Talk 1130. Mm-hmm. So there's your lineup. All those channels available to you via the iHeart Radio app. There's weirdness, going on these days in the National Basketball Association. The players, this is a very, very sensitive generation and a half. I say and a half because among the most sensitive is LeBron James, and he's not a youngster anymore. He's 40 in the NBA, that I'm having a hard time understanding. But he decides while the Lakers were in Indianapolis to go on the Pat McAfee show. Does LeBron? That's legal. There's no reason he has to explain himself for that. It sounded like it appeared it was strategic because I think there's been some bad blood between Stephen A. and McAfee a little bit. And so from LeBron's standpoint, in this open feud with Stephen A., it's like, okay, maybe this is the way I could stick it to him. I'll rip him, and I'll have a chance to rip him on that other ESPN show that makes a lot of money and that gets a lot of attention. That back and forth for me has become almost boring. It doesn't do all that much for me. Goes all the way back to when LeBron confronted Stephen A. at a game because of comments that Stephen A. made about his kid, or really the comments were about LeBron putting in Stephen A.'s mind the kid in the position he is, Bronny, to play basketball when the theory was that otherwise Bronny would not be in the league at all. And now it's escalated from there. And in fact, I think LeBron took a couple more shots at Stephen A. during that interview, and then Stephen A. has already responded like 5 times today. I'm actually a little bit tired of it and bored with it, even though I know there's a show business aspect that seems to thrive in the National Basketball Association, among others. What I'm more interested in, and what I'm much more puzzled by, is the comments he made about great players of today and what they would do if they played in the 70s. The direct quote, "You're trying to tell me Giannis wouldn't be able to play an NBA game in the 70s? Giannis would have 250 points in the 70s. 250. That was LeBron." And I'm bewildered by it because there's absolutely nobody. I think they call this a straw man argument. There is nobody who has made any kind of declarations about whether Greek Freak could be an effective player in the 70s. Most people, I think, would assume that he would be a great player in the 1970s. But the sad part about this is LeBron's the guy on the one hand who said, and part of the reason he said he did his podcast was, the way the game's is covered has changed, and I wanted to make it more about the basketball. I wanted to make it more about positive things and so forth. And I'm thinking, you're lecturing other people while you're basically dissing everybody who's played in the any good player that's played in the 1970s. And nobody has ever questioned how good Giannis would be in any decade. He's a great player. So why do you make this stuff up? And how do you, on the one hand, try to stay on your high horse about what everybody else does in terms of negativity, and then basically give the back of your hand to all the great players who played in the 70s? Because I'm going to tell you, if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could not score 250 points in the 70s, Greek Freak ain't either, okay? There's some great players, including, and Kareem's a better player than Giannis is. Flat out, no question, in the pecking order for his time, a better player. So that's what was nauseating to me, is you try to do the high horse thing. It's like he spent how much of his time hammering Stephen A. He also mocked, I'll get the name of the, kind of the LeBron reporter for ESPN, took some, I thought, unnecessary shots at him, claiming that he's always trying to make it seem like he's LeBron's best friend. All he does is cover him. So if you think stuff's gotten too gossipy, if you think stuff has gone away from covering, and to a certain extent celebrating the exploits and the excellence that's out there every night, then why the hell are you basically taking your time to do the same thing everybody else does that you say is no good, which is mocking and ridiculing other people? It made absolutely no sense. And I love the comment by, see if I can find it. Oh, Matt, your guy Mad Dog, First Take panelist Chris Mad Dog Russo, who's nuts in his own right. And his response to the Giannis stuff was, has he heard of Julius Erving? Giannis is not as good as Erving. If Erving, who was on the Sixers in the 70s, do you think Erving scored 250 points in a game or averaged 50? Here's what I want you to do, LeBron. I want you to go take a peek at the 77 Portland Trailblazers. You go watch Walton, and then you watch a power forward named Maurice Lucas in the front court. Lucas, who wouldn't take nonsense from nobody. The first time that Giannis would go in the lane, he would be knocked on his rear end. Let me see Giannis against that team. Let me see him go average 50 points a game. Why is LeBron, as allegedly one of the game's ambassadors, getting into this stupid ass game of mocking other eras? We know that the athleticism is improving all the time. That's undeniable. But it's stupid to get in that game of comparing eras. The conventional wisdom, and I think LeBron is not necessarily confirmed this, but I wouldn't surprise me if it was in the ballpark. The story that's been going on for a while is that LeBron spends $1 million a year on basically getting his body taken care of, right? And by that he means he's got, I guess various people who help him stay healthy. I don't know if he's one of those guys who's got a hyperbaric chamber, whatever it's called. But the point is, he has the resources that to say, all right, there's about 1 million things I can afford to do that a lot of other people can't. And I'm not begrudging him that. And the players in the 70s didn't have any of that. They didn't have many of the advantages. And there was a thing in the 70s called hand checking. The athletic wing players of today, as good and skilled as they are, they'd lose their minds if they had to put up with the rules that were the game back in the 80s, back in the 70s. A much more physical game, a game where you're going to get pounded every time you try to make a cut to the basket. So there's no point in doing that sort of comparison, and he was supposed to be above all of that. And why? Whatever happened, in all seriousness, to the notion that you celebrate what came before you? Because he has said that before, and yet in this case, it's like Giannis would score 250, because he's making it sound like there's a bunch of people who are constantly saying that today's players couldn't make it in the 70s. Well, if they're saying that at all, they ain't saying it about a superstar like Giannis. I guarantee you, if LeBron hired somebody and paid him $1 million to look 5,000 places for anybody disparaging what kind of player Giannis would have been in the 70s, he won't find anybody disparaging him. But for some reason, he decided to get on his high horse about that, and maybe he felt like he had to make some headlines. Maybe he had to be in the mood. He's on a show that's known to have a maverick host who yucked it up with him every time he said any of those things. And I just would like to think, if you've said before, respect what's come before you, and even if you are convinced that the players now are much better, you say, well, that was a different era. They didn't have a lot of the things that we do. And guess what? If they didn't exist, if they didn't do what they did, we wouldn't be here. Whatever happened to that sort of selflessness, that sort of statesmanship? I guess it's over. Statesman-like behavior apparently is done. So that, to me, was a far more annoying and worthy of conversation than whether he and Stephen A. are going to end up in some kind of a boxing.
Man.
I mean, if we're being honest, when it comes to, I guess you could say, firing back at so-called critics or those who have slighted a superstar player, it's fair to say that LeBron James isn't the first. It's fair to say that even Michael Jordan went through that period. But you know when Michael Jordan did it? His Hall of Fame speech. You could say, well, a lot of people thought it was a little awkward and a little off-putting because it's supposed to be a time of celebration. But compared to today, at least he had the decency to wait till then to get even with everybody. These guys act as if they're constantly put upon, and they're LeBron James gets plenty of praise and deserves it. I mean, LeBron James is still playing at a remarkably high level at the age of 40. He has, as far as I know, never gotten in any kind of significant, no criminal trouble away from the game, which, good players in any sport, that can happen from time to time. We mocked him for the, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but I mean, and even the decision. But in the grand scheme of things, that was, then, and I don't think people are still holding it against him. I think he gets celebrated a lot. Kevin Durant gets celebrated a lot. And yet, when there's the occasional pushback. I think part of it, as I said, is that this is, I think, the biggest difference, in all honesty. Players today all have 25 people around them. They can afford to have 25 people around them. They've got handlers. In a way that even Jordan, until later in his career, didn't, if he had that at all. That generation and the generation before, the Magic Larry generation, they didn't have handlers. And now you got, obviously, people around you that they're going to say everything you want to hear, and they're gonna because they never offer any kind of discouraging word. Then you're going, well, why would anybody ever? I'm LeBron James. I'm Kevin Durant. Why would I ever have to listen to anything? And then they act like it's not constant. It's in the internet age. It's, if you want to find the slights, you can pretty easily, but it could just be one goofball. Because somebody said Dennis Rodman made a crack, might have even been about LeBron, saying LeBron wouldn't have been that good playing in our era. Well, that's ludicrous. But it's also Rodman. So I think most reasonable people would say, well, okay, that's one guy. He's goofy. That's the kind of thing he's likely to say. But there's not people. He's invented a grievance when he brings up the name of the Greek Freak. And again, I don't know how many basketball. I'm guessing they can't begin to appreciate just how different the game was officiated, just how different the game was played defensively, and more importantly, physically back then. I'm not saying it was a better game, but I'm saying is that when we see people, including Anthony Edwards, slicing through the lane, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gliding through the lane, it's beautiful. But they would not do it in the game in the 70s. They wouldn't. They would not be allowed to. They would be often flattened. They would be often taken to the floor. And beyond that, they wouldn't be as free even getting there because, look it up. Once upon a time, there was Trent Tucker can tell you about it, hand checking. It was legal to hand check. We don't want that now because we want all offense and we want all finesse in the NBA. But it's real. And it was real then, hand checking, and it no matter how explosive you are, if you got a hand in your back all the time legally, it makes a difference. Now, I have no doubt that the greatest players of today would adjust because over a period of time, they would become used to it. But that goes back to me, the futility of, playing one era off another. And if you have an occasional chumbalone who says, these guys today couldn't play, they couldn't play. No, it's not that they couldn't play. It's they'd have to adjust dramatically and they wouldn't look the same. On the other hand, if, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had some of the advantages in terms of travel, in terms of training, etc., that the players do today, maybe he would have scored 250 points in a game. I don't know. So why bother with all that kind of nonsense? I'm not sure. But that's the ongoing debate right now that's going on in the National Basketball Association. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, 64686. This might be my favorite recent text. This actually came in a good half hour ago. How do I watch the Twins? No clue. Well, first of all, you might not want to watch them. Season opener is not going well for your favorite team. 4-0 is the score. The Cardinals leading the Twins, and it's the Twins batting, it looks like, in the top half of the fourth inning. We had a great opportunity to get something going on our guy, Sonny Gray. Remember him? We didn't need him. In the second inning, bases loaded, one out, got nothing going. Haven't had much else since. Pablo Lopez has not looked in midseason form, given up, among other things, a 2-run dong. And so we find ourselves down, certainly early enough, because, and again, this was a late starting game because of a rain delay. But who just struck out looking?
Jeffers.
Wow.
Is Sonny Gray not a bad pitcher?
No, but we had no chance to keep him. He didn't want to be here. You know why he wanted to go to St. Louis? It is a great baseball town.
Oh, look at all the people.
I mean, it's like we talk about Indianapolis being a great sports town across the board. St. Louis is a great baseball town. So would you rather be in Minnesota or would you rather be in a great baseball town like St. Louis. Maybe he knew something about ownership, too. I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it. That, and apparently Sonny felt like he got taken out of games too early, a combination of all those things. Let's make this the top of the hour pause. In fact, I think this will be our last segment, right? Because we're out a bit early. Wild Game is a 6:30-ish start tonight. So the pregame show will be at 6:15. We'll come back, wrap things up, and touch upon a couple of other matters, including an interesting conversation with Kevin Seifert on your favorite football team, the Vikings. Stay tuned.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
Well, there'll still, at this pace, be baseball for me to watch. I think by the time I get home, Twins still down 4-0. Cardinals batting, looks like, or they just wrapped up in the fourth, so we're going to the top half of the fifth inning. Pablo's still out there. He hadn't been great, but he's given us innings, so we don't have to go too deep into the bullpen this early in the season. But that's the early start there. I want to thank Kevin Seifert, who joined us today at about 3:30. Kind of the postmortem on yesterday's presser, which we discussed yesterday, but we went a little deeper because he was indeed there, and he confirms that Kwesi confirmed there were conversations. As we've talked about in this show, got ripped for it by people. Oh, you're making up the story. I don't know how much more on the record the general manager can get than confirming that KOC and Aaron Rodgers had extensive conversations about the possibility of him coming here. Still unlikely at this point, one would say. But that confirmation was part of what we discussed. We got into some rules changes, potentially, with Seifert. And then Rick Bozich on Big Dance Sweet 16 edition. He joined at about 4:15 today. His White Sox club did win today, by the way. They did win. They are over 500, he says, for the first time since 2005.
So
and
you're off the hook.
Some people are saying, well, that can't be true. And he said, well, that's White Sox humor. It might be a little of exaggeration, but White Sox have been pretty bad, and they were dreadfully, historically bad last year. He was between like 4:15 and 4:40. And then good stuff from the Fallness Studios, Russo Radio. We're out early tonight because of the early start for Minnesota Wild hockey. Will you hit the breaking news sounder for me?
Yes.
I should have. I'm just too lazy to reach for it, which is kind of sad, to tell you the truth, if you can find it. It's on page 1.
There it is.
Congratulations to your guy, Blake Moore, Max Fuller.
Oh,
I mean, this is tremendous. I'm very excited, and when I heard about the news, and I didn't think Max made it official till yesterday. Well, actually, it says 9 hours ago, his tweet. And it's a tweet of I've got a little bit of a life update to share with y'all. And it's, of course, a mugshot of the irrepressible Max Fuller. His Fox 9 ID. Fox 9 and Fox 9 Plus. He's doing all kinds of work for them. And I couldn't be happy for him. Great. Well, you know him really well. Worked with him a lot. Mm-hmm. I worked with him some. And it's a loss here for sure. There's no question about that. But it's a great opportunity, is what I've been told, and I have no doubt that he will do quite well with it. Behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, combination of both. I think he's doing a lot of different things, and that's the plan. So congrats to our guy, Max Fuller. I don't even know how many fan people, and when I say fan people, I mean listeners. I think they're just learning about it in just the last few hours, are they not? Even though I think he's been there for a few days already. So have you talked to him at all?
No.
Yeah. It's a great deal for him for sure. So congratulations to Max Fuller.
I knew it was a possibility.
There was some negotiating going on.
Yeah, but I didn't know fully for sure until this week.
Yeah, that could be a great opportunity. I mean, I'm a Fox 9 guy. I love that station, and they got some room, man, for some growth, I think. And he's the best thing I think about Max is that he'll dive into anything. He'll dive into whatever. And for that reason, I think there is every reason to believe it'll go very well for him. Real quick, 64686 is the KFAN text line. Do we had a rally going? Oh, we got to lead it. We got a single, a one-out single.
There's the third hit of the game.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
What is that quote? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step? That might be the single step.
Yeah. How do you eat a whale? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. Are you going to the Wild game tonight?
No, I won't be able to get out there in time.
You've been here since like 6 a.m.?
Like 9.
Man, you got to be. That's meaty. Are you tired?
Yeah, I'm going to take a nap.
Yeah. Are you willing to predict victory for the Wild tonight?
No.
Well, it's one game. It's one game. Anything can happen in one game.
Am I willing to say it or am I willing to mean it? Those are two different things.
Well, I'll
say it.
Yeah, you'll say it. You might not. You might lack sincerity. Is that what you're telling me?
I didn't Russo say that the Caps have like 7 20-goal scorers, and we've got 2
daunting statistic.
Yeah. So I think we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, a very daunting statistic for sure. I'll watch tonight. I'll go back and forth. I'll do a little big dance. I'll do a little bit. Well, I want to. What time's the Gopher the men's hockey regional semifinal game? Will you double check the time
head, I want
there?
To say 7.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. Now again, that will be on News Talk 1130. If you got the iHeart app, you can have access to everything tonight at a fingertip or at a touch, a single touch, just moving from one station to another. On the flagship, FM 103.3 The Fan, it will be the Wild tonight. And then after that, we'll pick up Westwood One's coverage of the Sweet 16. And then on News Talk 1130, Gophers NCAA regional semifinal action. That's UMass we're playing tonight, correct?
It is.
And did you find a time yet? You still looking? While you're still looking to try to establish a time, as I mentioned, that's on News Talk 1130. Golden Gopher women's basketball. WBIT, they are hosting Gonzaga, and that game, we got a dong.
Hang on.
Who hit it, Bader?
Harrison Bader.
Bader with a 2-run dong. The 4-0 Cardinals lead has been sliced in half, and you mocked me.
Who said you can't come home?
A single step on the way to that 1,000-mile journey. So Twins are back in it. That was off of our guy, Sonny Gray. Pulled it hard to left field, right over the flower pots at Busch Stadium.
Right in the Big Mac land.
Yeah, well, I guess they don't have flower pots
short
there.
Of that.
Our flower pots, nevertheless.
7:30 for Gophers hockey.
Nice. So all of this stuff, you get the iHeart app, it's free. All these stations will show up and give you access to everything. You can switch back and forth between college hockey, women's college basketball, professional hockey, and ultimately the big dance as well. I'm officially out for a few days, a little vacation activity. So you think it might be Sinekin in this chair tomorrow. Guardsy's at the Final Four next week. So I'll be in touch as soon as I can be. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy your spring break, wherever you might be headed. And we'll talk to you soon. Whenever